So if I want to use her in my story, let's say I want to make my baby a princess. I'm going to go to props, and I'm going to go to more props, and I want my baby to be a princess. Well, actually, I'm just going to type in here. Oh, princess. And when I click on it, I can give my little girl a princess dress. Just like that. Okay, so this is another part where I would stop because I've kind of done a lot of instructing here. And with kids, I know that their attention span is short unless they're actually engaging with the activity. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to let them play with it for a minute. I'm going to have volunteers come up and pick, once again, click on a page, do a scene, so that they can, make sure, or I can make sure that they know what they're doing. They can click on a photo, they can add photos in with the different props, things like that. Just, I want to stop intermittently throughout my lesson and give them the opportunity to work with it. So I know that I'm not just teaching and they're losing attention, but that they're actually learning what I'm teaching and that they're able to do it themselves. Alright, so in this tutorial, when you get to the last page, it's going to give you the opportunity to start on your own story. So we're going to hit exit because we're done with the tutorial. And this is where you can either create a book from scratch, which will be blank pages all the way through, or you can pick one of their templates that kind of helps you. So if you're having trouble coming up with your own story, that's what these are for. This helps you build a treasure map. This one is a story. It looks like it takes place in a kitchen about food. This one takes place in the ocean. So it just kind of has, several things down here that'll help you, okay? What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to actually show you guys that I started one so that you can see what happens. Like I said, when you start one, if you don't have time to finish it at one time, it's going to save it so you can come back and work on it. When you get done with it, you're going to click on the bottom where it's going to say that you're finished with it, and then you're actually going to have a chance to share it. Let's see here. So if I click on my book, looks like right here, which I'm not going to share it because it's not quite done yet, but if you click on share, that's where you can upload it to Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and actually make it available for other authors to read on the site. Okay, so now we know how to make our book. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over the different elements that are important to include when you are writing your story, okay? So this is actually a worksheet that I'm going to print off and I'm going to give to you guys so that this will kind of help you build your story. It has all the important parts to it. It has your characters, your challenge, the motivation of your story, your setting, your obstacles. So we're going to talk about these things one by one, just so that you know what are the important elements to have in your story. The first thing that you need to pick is your character. This is going to be your main character that the story, most of the story revolves around. So at this point in the lesson, I'm going to get ideas from my students, because again, I don't want this to be a lesson where I'm just teaching and they're just listening. So I might get ideas to ask them, okay, what is a character that you might want to hear a story about? Just to kind of see what they can come up with. I'm also going to discuss how important it is to have not just the main character, but other characters, friends, enemies, heroes, villains, and so on of the main character. Okay, so once you come up with your characters, you're going to move on to challenges. And actually, let me talk about this worksheet real quick. When you do, as I'm working with the students and they're coming up with ideas, I'm going to write their ideas in this box so that they can also get the idea of how to fill this worksheet out as they're writing their story. The next thing is the challenge. In every story there has to be something they have to overcome, and that's going to be what your story is about. So let's see, on this website they actually give you ideas for challenges. So if you can't come up with something yourself, they kind of give you story starters. So like, what if your character discovered a tree that grew money? Well, how would you build a story from that? Or he ate way too much for lunch and now he can't get off the couch. Or he was given the power to become an animal for one day. And this is another part of my lesson where I would ask my students, what can you think of? What's a challenge that your characters can have to overcome so that to make your story interesting or funny or scary or however you want your story to be? When you come up with things, and as I get different ideas from my students, we're going to write that in this box. Motivation is also important. Why does your character want to do whatever they want to do in the story? So if your character has to beat the bad guy, why do they have to beat the bad guy? Do they have to beat the bad guy because he's going to destroy the village? Is he going to turn him into a frog? That's what you're going to write in the motivation. Why are they doing what they're doing in the story? The next step is your setting, which is where and when your story takes place. If it is important, then it doesn't have to have that many details. If it is important, you want to make sure you add a lot of description in your details. So if you are telling a story about, I don't know, something that takes place 100 years ago, you're going to want to describe the clothes, and you're going to want to describe, I don't know, things that were going on at the time so that your readers actually can understand why, the important things about your setting that help tell the story. Let's see. Once again, I'll get ideas from my students about setting, and we'll fill that in this box. And finally, what obstacles stand in their way? So if my story is about a hero and he's trying to beat a bad guy, he has to have some obstacles that create some tension in your story to make it fun for your readers to read, to see if he's going to get to the end. 3 obstacles is a good number to start with. So let's see. So if we're going to use the example of Frozen, 3 obstacles that we would write in here is that Elsa created an endless snowstorm that they have to overcome. And let's see, she doesn't know how to control her powers. That's another obstacle. And finally, and I can't remember his name right now, but the prince that is trying to steal the castle, that's another obstacle they have to overcome. So you're going to come up with 3 obstacles that you're going to put in your worksheet that are going to help you build your story. Your climax is going to be, how did they solve the challenge? How did Elsa learn to control her powers so that she could bring Summer back to Arendelle? And that's going to be what you're going to write here. And finally, your outcome is where you're going to wrap up all the loose ends of your story, and you're going to make sure that it has an ending and that everything makes sense and everything kind of falls together. Okay, so once you get your worksheet filled out and you've included all the elements in your story that you're going to need, then you're going to go back to the Story Jumper website and you're going to create your book. If you want to start from scratch, you're going to click on here, Create New Book, where it's going to take you to your blank template. Or if you need some help, you're going to see if I can find it. You're going to go back here, and it's going to take you to the templates. All right. So this is probably a lesson that obviously isn't going to take place in one setting. If I was actually teaching this to a class of 2nd graders, I think what I would do is probably break it up into a week or so of different lessons so that it's not too much information in one sitting, because I know with 2nd graders, once again, attention span isn't very long, and I don't want them to lose what I'm teaching them. I want them to remember and retain what I'm teaching. So I might start out by introducing the website, and then we might read through the story, and then the next day we might look at the worksheet on how to build their story, and then we might come back to it and we might actually be working with the tools. So this whole entire lesson would probably go over a couple of weeks. Using this site, I have actually built an account so that I can get on here and save my work. I would probably do the same with the student computers, so that they can get in, work on their story, save their accounts, and then when they get done with this, I've kind of already discussed sharing. We'll talk about how they get them published, things like that. But that is pretty much my lesson. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.